Hello, Declan Costello here, editor of ENT and Audiology News. I'm here chatting to Kim Ah-See, who for many years has been the editor of our How I Do It section, where you find technical tricks and tips for surgical techniques and lots else besides. Kim has been with us for we don't know how many years. We were just chatting and trying to work out when he started, but neither of us could work it out. But it's been a long time, and before that was on journal reviews as well. So, Kim, the reason we're talking to you now is because you are sort of peri-retirement and just about to stop. So thank you for chatting to me.
Thank you very much, Declan. It's a pleasure, of course. Yeah, Peri retirement seems to have crept up on us quite sneakily.
Yeah, I
Time
find that
passes very quickly.
you go from being a young consultant to being a sort of senior consultant in a click of a finger, and that's it.
So it seems, Declan, and yeah, but that's how fast time moves, and as they say, it seems to move faster as the decades go
Doesn't it?
by.
Look, we're just going to chat about a few different things, if that's okay, for the next few minutes.
Yes.
How did you get into ENT? Tell me.
Okay. ENT, as many people know, is not something that's very well represented as a undergraduate specialty. So it's kind of one of these things that you discover either by chance or by some other means. And in my case, I was being led down the path of general surgery. Now we're talking, as I'm peri-retirement, we're talking now in the late 80s, after I'd retired, after I'd graduated. And so general surgery was what I was going to do for various reasons, not least perhaps my dad was a general surgeon. My late father was a general surgeon who specialized in vascular surgery and general surgery. And there came a point in time when I was doing what were called house jobs, now FY jobs, of course, that I was doing general surgery. And I realized that it was pretty unsociable. On call in the late 80s and early 90s as a general surgeon was pretty tough, I don't mind saying. And I have very clear memories of being up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning operating, well, let's say assisting, holding big retractors for my general surgical seniors. And I remember one evening, one early morning, looking around the operating table at, it was me, the fresh-faced houseman. There was an SHO across from me. There was a registrar next to him. There was also the senior registrar. And lo and behold, the consultant himself at that time had to be in as well. And I knew all these people had families. Some of them had kids. And this was 3 o'clock in the morning. I thought, wait a minute, I can do this because I'm 22 or 23. But I don't fancy doing this when I'm in my 30s, 40s, or 50s. Mm. And then it became even more clear that this was perhaps not the correct route because my dad was called out on call many more times than I was as a consultant in general surgery. And I was brought up with that environment at home, especially doing vascular stuff. I think from a very early age at primary school, I knew what a ruptured aortic aneurysm meant well before anybody knew what on earth that was. And I knew that whatever it was, it meant that my dad was out, usually in the middle of the night, and you didn't see him until the evening of the next day. So it was clear that another thing had to be considered, and I went through a short list of surgical specialties, came to ENT and thought, you know, I have no idea what ENT is about because we didn't really get much. So I did an early SHO job in ENT in Aberdeen and absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. I found the people, the personalities were just very human and supportive, very keen on their specialty in general. And this was a revelation, to be honest. It was quite refreshing. And from that point on, it was quite clear that this was an area that I wanted to try.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I often say it to medical students and junior doctors coming through. when they're thinking about specialties, don't look at what your tier are doing. Actually, look at the consultants, because you're going to spend 20 or 30 years doing that. And if the consultant's up in the middle of the night, well, if you want to do that, that's fine. But actually, if you, on balance, if you don't, then you need to think about what else you might want
Yeah.
to do.
I mean, of course, it's changed now. The general surgical colleagues that we have don't have to work such unsociable hours as they used to. So things do evolve for the better, I think.
Yeah, sure.
But
And it's obviously
in that,
the career through ENT has obviously worked well for you. I mean, in addition to your clinical work, your CV tells me that you're a very keen educator. How did that come about, and what are the different strands of education that you're involved in?
I think education is, I think, it's a privilege that we have in our jobs. Really, Declan. I think, and it comes from, I believe, an enthusiasm for your job. If you're enthusiastic about what you're doing, you clearly want to share it with those around you and those who might be expressing an interest in your specialty. So you start to talk to them about it, and inevitably that then kind of morphs into teaching them about it and training them about it. And we're very fortunate, well, I have been, that over the years that I've trained, I've worked in predominantly teaching hospitals, and the presence of medical students and other training clinicians means that there's always a demand for education, and it seemed quite accessible for a clinician to get involved in that. And as I say, you have to be enthusiastic for it, and I felt I was. So I've been involved in medical student teaching since I was appointed as a consultant, and of course all of us as trainees as well have trained our peers and taught students as well. So I was involved, have been involved in medical student teaching in various places, but latterly obviously at Aberdeen Medical School, and I've really enjoyed that. I had the opportunity a few years back to be the Director of Medical Education, which is a lot more formal in its title, and you have much more responsibility for medical student teaching within an NHS setting. So I learned a lot about how quality assurance looks like when you're teaching students, and how to make sure that it's not such an ad hoc process, which it used to be, depending on who you got, what day you turned up, what sort of teaching you got delivered to you. And it's become much more formalized and professionalized now, and I think that's a good thing. So I've enjoyed that. And also our trainees are generally a great bunch of enthusiastic young doctors, and I've been a clinical supervisor, educational supervisor, and I've been involved in registrar teaching for many years.
Yeah.
And I suppose part of that has been the intercollegiate. I have been involved as an intercollegiate examiner for, I think it must have been about 15 years. I demitted that last year. And that's been a really nice experience, going around the country, assessing trainees, meeting lots of great colleagues in different departments. And actually getting a lot of CPD yourself, because you go to an exam, you might be a specialist in a particular area, but you might be asked to examine in rhinology, and it's not my field, but you learn a lot. So I think there's a lot of CPD for your own personal benefit when you're a trainer.
Absolutely. And no, I completely agree. I do some examining myself, and I learn quite a lot from doing it. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as part of the sort of wider educational stuff that you do, obviously you're involved with ENT News, and we've seen loads of really fascinating articles and tips and tricks coming through over the years. How do you go about finding things to put into the magazine, and do you have people approaching you? How has it worked over the years?
My own experience with this role has been largely through word of mouth, so contacts that one has, and again, roles such as with the college and the examining means that you make contacts and you speak to people and you ask them about potential How I Do It articles. So I would say the majority of the articles that we have produced over the years have come through networking and knowing people and inquiring about their own subspecialties and not and also I think it's important to make it not overcomplicated. So some people can have really niche areas, and that's very interesting for them. But a lot of our readership in the ENT News are trainees, and they're miles away from a very niche practice, and they want to know some of the basic steps for septoplasty, perhaps. And so we have in the past had some really core articles on how to do some common but basic bread and butter things, mixed in with some of the more interesting, perhaps subspecialty areas. We do get some people approaching us with ideas, some of which we will accept. Others we will perhaps be a little bit cautious about, maybe because they come across as perhaps a bit more promotional for a particular piece of kit or something, and one has to be careful about not becoming an advertisement for.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, they're always fascinating, the articles that you've brought to us. So thank you for that. We're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but tell me about other things. I mean, you're a sportsman, is that right? I thought you were an endurance sportsman, but you tell me it's actually just sort of a normal sportsman.
Well, endurance conjures up lots of images of running across Sahara deserts and things like that, and I definitely have no intention of doing that. I do enjoy being active, and over the years have done, triathlons and things, and enjoy cycling a lot. It's probably my favorite thing at the moment, and running has been a thing that varies depending on how well behaved my knees are on a particular day. So lots of activities, perhaps, and most of them I hope will continue during and beyond retirement.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's rare for retiring doctors to grab a pipe and slippers and do nothing. What are your plans for retirement and as you slow down?
We have some immediate goals along sort of activity lines. So we're going to be doing my first ever marathons. We're doing, my wife and a couple of our sons are signed up to do the Edinburgh Marathon in May. So we're in the process of training and preparing for that. We have Land's End to John O'Groats cycle coming up in August. So that's going to be a really good fun, I think. We quite like these long distance cycles over a period of days. So that's the immediate short term. All of our sons live around the Central Belt in Edinburgh area, so we may drift towards that direction in the longer term, perhaps. But as we were saying earlier, Peri retirement means not stopping all work completely. There will still be some work on a part-time basis to continue with even after formal retirement. So yes, activities will certainly carry on, but a lot of them will be focused around family. And I have a sort of ambition one day to build my own eco-friendly house somewhere nice if possible. So that's at the moment an idea, and we just need to try and work out the practicalities of how to build a eco house and if that's a feasible project. But if it is a project, which I hope it will be,
that does sound like a very big project.
It'll keep us occupied for a good couple of years or so anyway, I think, in the medium term.
For sure. Brilliant. Well, Kim, look, thank you very much indeed for your time, and thanks again for all the work you've done with ENT News over the last few years. I know that that section of the magazine is in good hands with your successor. Tell us a little bit about the chap who's following on from you.
So one of our previous registrars in Aberdeen, who's now a consultant in Fife, Miles Bannister, has been an enthusiastic contributor to some of our How I Do It articles. And when I was thinking about successors, it wasn't hard to consider someone like Miles, who's a very enthusiastic, capable colleague, and he has been approached and has been very keen to take on that role. So I'm very happy that, as you say, I think the role is in good hands with Miles.
Brilliant. Well, you've steered it brilliantly over the years. Thank you, Kim, very much for your time, and thanks for all you've done for ENT News over the years.
It's been an absolute pleasure and nice speaking to you, Declan.
To you.